I grew up, like I suspect a lot of grandchildren or family members of Holocaust survivor families, immersed in stories of the Holocaust.
Growing up, Adam Frankel always reveled in his family's history.
I looked at my grandparents with reverence growing up. To think about what they went through, what they endured, the resilience that was required is inspiring.
But in 2006, his mother confirmed a life-changing secret with him.
When I was 25 years old, I learned that my dad is not my biological father. When you lived your whole life for 25 years thinking you're one person and then get a piece of information like that that totally upends it, it made me question everything. I asked my mom during that conversation, I said, "Does Dad know?" And she goes, "No, break his heart, break his heart."
After learning the truth, Adam buried the secret and questioned his identity for nearly a decade.
I felt like I'd lived a lie my whole life, and I felt like I was living a lie, and that I was complicit in the lie. You know, every time I'd see my dad, every time I'd see my grandmother, I felt like I was withholding something from them, something profound and personal.
Finally, in 2014, he confessed his secret to the man he forever knew as Dad.
He said, "I know, I've always known it was possible, and I made a decision a long time ago that it doesn't matter one way or another, you're my son, and you always will be."
It was only after that confession that Adam was able to move forward.
After that, everything opened up for me. It took a while, but that was the beginning.
Adam's new book is The Survivors, a story of war, inheritance, and healing. And Adam is with us this morning. My goodness, what a story. Let's go back to when you learned the truth.
Yeah.
Before that, did you have any suspicions, any inkling that things may not have been as they seemed?
You know, Craig, there are dots looking back. There are dots that I didn't connect, that I didn't know to connect. But that's not what led me to start asking about all of this. I started asking questions fairly innocuously, wondering about missing pieces of my family history that I didn't know about. Why did my parents get divorced? And I just started asking these questions, and the answers didn't add up.
So then, have you forgiven your mother? I know you say, saying it and doing it are two different things.
Yeah, I have forgiven my mom. And the truth is, writing this book was a big part of that. Writing this book helped me explore and understand my mom's mental health issues, which she's battled with all of her life, helped me understand some of the struggles she's had, helped me understand my family's story, and all of that helped me empathize and sympathize with her, and I do forgive her, yes.
You learned this in 2006, and you say it was about 8 years before you told your father about it, and we heard in the piece that your mom kind of said this would break his heart. What finally made you decide to tell him?
Carrying the secret was so hard, and it just was so disruptive to my life, so painful.
In what way?
There were physical symptoms. I mean, I would go to doctors. I had lumps under my arms. They said it was from stress.
Wow.
I would get sleeplessness, nightmares, chronic nightmare. I mean, I felt like I had a chronic panic attack at times from carrying this for so long. And I just had a sense at a certain point, I loved my dad, and I just needed to open up to him. And I sensed, I think, that opening up to him would be the path to help me unlock this and move forward.
I'm questioning, do you wish you did it sooner? Are you glad you told him when you did? There are a lot of people who are holding secrets and want to tell someone else, but they wrestle with that.
Yeah.
What would you say?
It's so personal and varies. I mean, in my case, my biggest regret about this whole thing is not telling my dad sooner.
Really?
Because he loves me, and I should have. I knew that, but I was so terrified. I was never terrified that he would walk away or abandon me. That wasn't my fear. My fear was that he would look at me slightly differently. That the slightest change in his voice. That only the two of us would know. But I know now, I mean, based on his response, based on what I should have known to begin with, I should have come to him immediately.
What about the relationship with your biological father?
We don't currently have a relationship. I think one of the lessons that I've learned from this whole thing is that family is not built on biology, it's built on love.
Built on bond.
What about the part of your history, the Holocaust? Where does that fit in, do you think, in all this?
We now know more than we've ever known about the way that trauma can leave an impact on people at the molecular level. I mean, for my book, I interviewed people like Rachel Yehuda at Mount Sinai, one of the world's leading experts in trauma and PTSD. And learning about the impact that my grandparents' Holocaust experience had on them, that was passed down to my mother and her siblings. And then to me, it just sort of helped me understand my family's story in broader context.
Adam Frankel, it is a remarkable story. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
in and
much,
sharing
Greg.
with us.
Thank you.
The book, by the way, The Survivors, A Story of War, Inheritance, and Healing. You can find out more about it at today.com/shop. We'll be right back.